Let's open our Bibles to Esther, the book of Esther. It's going to be a little bit different today. Just kind of give you a little bit of insight as to why we're doing this. The passages that we follow each Sunday, we try to do it in conjunction with what the children's ministry goes over. And my vision is for all of us when we go home, whether it's Faithland, Joyland, Loveland, whatever it may be, and Mosaic. When we go home, I want the whole family to be talking about that same passage together. You know, if you have children, or when you have children, I know a lot of us are not yet at that stage of having children yet. But when we have children, we want to have this vision of, you know, the whole family gathering together and talking about the same thing. And how's the Lord been speaking to you, right? That's my hope. Today, all these other ministries, these next-gen ministries are going to be talking about, or most of the next-gen ministries are going to be talking about Esther. And my hope is that when you get into the car, when you pile all your kids, and I'm assuming a lot of us have a lot of kids. You know, I think the average is about 3. If you don't have 3, start making plans for having 3 kids. Right, Dan? 3. 3 is the magic number. So, and actually, I think most of the pastors have 3 kids. So maybe that's a sign. Maybe you're next, Dan. We want to be able to pile in the cars and turn to each other and say, you know, we talked about the book of Esther. What did you learn? Son, what did you learn? Daughter, what did you learn? How did the Lord speak to you through that passage? Well, let me share with you what I learned from that passage. I mean, the great thing is that we can do this together as a family. We could do this as a community. We could do this as one body of believers. That's my hope in all this. Today we're looking at Esther chapters 2 through 9. But I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I just want to pick up on some of the little details that I think are just really interesting to zero in on. We're talking about the life of Esther. I titled this, A Nobody to Help Somebody. A Nobody to Help Somebody. I know a lot of us here are probably thinking, I'm not a nobody. I'm somebody, right? Some of us are thinking, I am someone. But let's be honest, you know, at least for me, there have been moments, and even right now, quite honestly, as I'm standing in front of you here, there's that part of me that feels like, man, I am really not qualified to do these things. I'm not qualified to be able to stand up here and do the things that the Lord has called me to do. I am truly a nobody, right? I mean, I didn't know Christ until I graduated college, right? So I'm thinking, man, who am I to stand here in front of all of you who have had Christ in your lives for longer than I have? And so I identify with this pastor, and I'm really preaching to myself right now. I really am a nobody, but with God, I am somebody that can come forward and take it to the next level. There's a story about this missionary couple that went to what is known as Botswana right now, and they were sent there by this missions organization, and for 10 years being out in this country, they would minister and do all these different things, minister to the people, but in these 10 years, they had nobody attending their church. They had nobody attending their ministry. No one was coming forward to receive Christ. And so the directors back home, they were starting to wonder, you know, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we should call you back. And so talks started to go about how we should kind of rethink this mission in Botswana. And a little bit later, a friend outside of this organization reached out to this couple, to this missionary couple, and they asked, "Hey, we're going to send you something. We're going to send you a little gift, but is there anything that you would like for us to send to you? And the couple, they looked at this letter and they asked they asked each other, what do we need? And then finally the wife writes a letter back and says, send us a communion set. Send us a communion set. For surely we will soon need it. And long story short, God honored that faith, right? God honored that faith because soon after that letter, one person started coming to their ministry, to their church, and then another. And then after a while, a group of 6 people who have given their lives over to Christ, they start coming to the church. And on the day they were planning on doing communion, now with a lot of people that have gathered, the communion set that had been delayed by all these different factors that finally arrived on the day they were going to do communion, and they were able to conduct the Lord's Supper in the presence of this big church. All because the wife of this missionary said, send us that communion set. For we know surely we will need it. How many of us have ever had those moments where things look really, really distressful and hopeless, and we come to, in a sense, our wits' end, and then we finally just we know what we need to do. It's audaciously big, and we don't know if this is just like a risk, if you will. But we go out on faith, believing that God's going to do something powerful through that. I mean, have we ever experienced that? Those moments where we're just kind of like at our wits' end, and we just say like, okay, we're going to do this, and God's going to do the rest. It's such a great experience. I'll be honest, just this week alone for me, I've had a lot of those moments where I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, this is like an impossible scenario. This is an impossible situation. And you kind of feel your heart sink for just a moment, and then you realize, man, maybe there's something that we can do, and maybe God can pull off a miracle in these moments. We had a family member who experienced heart failure and was hospitalized, and doctors have basically deemed this family member as brain dead. And we're thinking, man, I'm thinking to myself, I've lost my opportunity to share the gospel. It's an impossible situation, right? But then as I prayed about it, I'm thinking, like, Lord, maybe, I'm kind of going through in my head all the things I know about theology and what can this, is there still a chance? And then I remember this one moment where I was visiting this family member, and I just felt like, I'm just going to share the gospel. I'm just going to share the gospel, right? I mean, and in my mind, here I'm justifying in my mind, yes, a person's body may have failed to such a degree that they're not responsive or anything of that sort, and they're being kept alive on these machines. But yet, I have to believe the perseverance of the soul, right? Even if we are not able to communicate to the physical, the soul remains intact, and the soul must be present and must be ready to receive the gospel. So I just decided, I don't even have the words to speak, but I'm just going to share Jesus is God. And I want you to know that. I want you to understand that Jesus died for you and that you have nothing to fear. What lays ahead is this amazing journey if only you will just give your life to Jesus. I don't know what's happening to your physical body, but what matters most is your soul. Isn't that how we share the gospel with all the people around us? I don't care about your physical condition. I mean, it sounds harsh. what I care most is about your spiritual condition. And here I am, I'm thinking, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. When we're going to our workplaces, when we're sharing this time with friends, and we're compelled to share the gospel, this good news of Jesus Christ, that Jesus died for us, that He rose from the dead, and to prove to the world that death has no hold upon us, then it doesn't make sense that it's no longer about our physical condition. It's no longer about trying to stay alive as long as we can when we have eternity to look forward to, when we have this eternity that we can spend with God. You know, the funny thing is, I actually believe the physical is what holds us back from truly realizing the enormity of the gospel. It's the 18 inches, or maybe 12 inches, between our ears, where we try to rationalize all these different things. Logically, scientifically, no, this doesn't make any sense, and no. And the reality is, we block ourselves from the truth about this eternality of our soul. You know, can we go out on faith, what God can potentially do in powerful ways that go beyond what we can ever experience or imagine? This story, actually, about Esther really has, it's one of the, it's actually the only book of the Bible that doesn't mention this direct interaction between the characters in the book of the Bible and God. There's no mention about this Esther coming before God and having this dialogue with God. There's no recorded dialogue between these characters and God. But it goes without saying, God is clearly present in all of these different things, in these circumstances. What do we see here? First, let's talk about Esther. Esther going from being just this young girl, living this simple life as a Jewish girl in this exile, living in exile in a foreign land, and having all these various challenging circumstances around her. What do we know about her? We know that she's actually an orphan, right? Both of her parents have died. She's probably an only child. The only family that she has is this cousin, Mordecai, who's probably an older cousin, who would have this heart for her and take her in as his own daughter. So she's actually raised in a house, at least with some form of family. And she's brought into a circumstance where, again, she has no control over what she is called to do. I mean, the king Azarias, or King Xerxes, as some would know him as, he would have this fallout with his current queen, kick her out of the house, and then he would say, "Bring all the virgins into my presence. I'm going to choose from among them who will be my queen." There was no choice in the matter for her, right? But she went forward with it. She followed the instructions of Mordecai and even the king's eunuch, who she has won favor with, and she just kind of like on this conveyor belt, just moving forward. No real control over her life other than just to kind of go along with all that's going on. She listens to Mordecai, who says, "Don't reveal anything about your identity." Right? We have those circumstances. We may have experienced moments where we're caught up in a moment where we have no control over it. We just have to go through with it. But then, long story short, she would end up in this idyllic life, right? She would be chosen from amongst all these ladies to be the queen to King Azarias. She lived this life. I mean, and for all intents and purposes, she had the perfect life. Probably the life that a lot of us would love to have. Money, with comfort, living in this in luxurious place, and not having a care in the world. Right? this idyllic life, but then all the while, Mordecai, who lives on the other side of the wall of this palace, is experiencing all this chaos, right? She's living this peaceful life. Mordecai finds himself in this battle with Haman, this guy who has won the favor of King Azarias, and now he's put in charge of all these different things. And as wherever Haman goes, everybody would pay homage to him. They would just like bow down to him. But then Mordecai would not do that, and that because of Haman's pride, he would seek ways to not only kill Mordecai, but also kill all of his people, all of the Jews. So there's this chaos going on outside. There's an idyllic life that's going on inside. And then we come to chapter 4. So chapter 3, we see Haman sets up this plan to wipe out all the Jews, and he gets, in a sense, the blessing from the king to go forward with this crazy plan to annihilate and kill all of the Jews. Mordecai in chapter 4, he's found outside tearing off his clothes, putting on sackcloth, basically to grieve and to mourn the coming loss of his entire race. And Esther then turns to one of her servants that says, "Hey, go find out what's going on with Mordecai." And there's this dialogue that goes back and forth between Mordecai and Esther. And basically Mordecai is saying, like, we've got this crazy scenario where all the Jews are going to be wiped out. And here's a copy of the edict, this decree that was made by your king. And I'm just at a loss. And then we come to verse 11. Chapter 4, verse 11. All the king's servants and the people of the king's province know that if any man or woman... So this is Esther talking. Actually, I'm sorry. We should actually start from verse 10. Then Esther spoke to this Hatach, the servant, and commanded him to go to Mordecai and say, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that if any man or woman goes to the king inside the inner court without being called, but there is but one law, to be put to death, except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter, that he may live. But as for me, I have not been called to come into the king these 30 days. What do we see there? Just in those handful of verses here, we see Esther knows what she can do. She knows that there is possibly something that I can do, but there's this incredible thing that comes in the way of me being able to do this. I know I can probably talk to the king and try to work out something with him, but the thing that blocks me from that, this impossible scenario, is I can't approach him. No one can approach him unless they're called, and if they do come, then the scepter has to be extended out to me. Then I may have audience before the king. But you've got this incredibly impossible scenario. Right? We have those thoughts in our hearts and our minds, right? Those impossible scenarios where we think to ourselves, man, this would be great, but there's something that blocks it from happening. There's this thing that keeps it from becoming a reality. But then we come to verse 12. And they told Mordecai what Esther had said. Then Mordecai said to them to reply to Esther, do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you will not have to come to the kingdom at such a time as this. What is Mordecai saying? There's actually a lot of things that he's trying to convey. But what he's really, what I see him saying is, you were created for a moment such as this. Yes, you may think to yourself, I can just remain quiet and just not have to worry about anything, and all this will pass on the outside and nothing will happen to me. Yeah, you could easily think that. And just know that, even in a moment such as this, deliverance can still come to the Jews, but not through you. But what if you were made for a moment such as this? What if you were made for a moment such as this? I mean, I see God saying to each and every one of us that same thing. We can say to ourselves, "Oh no, I can't pray. I can't do any of these things. I'm too shy to share the gospel. I don't know enough about the Bible," or whatever the case may be. We try to rationalize it out and we talk ourselves out of it. But what if somebody comes up to you and says, "What if this was your moment? This is you stepping into this moment, and you could be the one to turn all this around. What if you were truly made for this moment?" No one else can talk to this person. No one can pray at a moment such as this. No one can minister at such a time such as this. No one can do these things at your corporation, at your company, except you. What if you were made for a moment such as this? Wow, I mean, Mordecai it's just, he's on the outside and he's mourning and he's thinking to himself, man, this is a crazy moment and I can't believe this is all happening. But he's looking at Esther and saying, you were made for a moment like this. This is you stepping up. So you have this moment of blockage. Esther sees what she could do, but the incredible blockage that comes in between. But then what does she say? She turns around and says, okay, I'm not just paraphrasing, this is going to be crazy, but let's pray. Let's pray and fast for 3 days, and if I perish, I perish. Let's go all in on this. And then long story short, we see that she steps in and she walks through the courtyard. The king sees her at a distance. And, the king clearly has a heart for her. He raises his scepter to her. She walks in. He turns to her and says, what can I do for you? Right? You have this image of this king who is a tyrant and who will kill anyone who makes any approach towards his throne. But here he sees his queen and he's like, what can I do for you? Anything you want, what can I do for you? And what does she say? Let's have dinner. Let's have dinner. Invite Haman along. Let's have dinner. Okay, they have a great meal. Then, but she doesn't say anything, and the king still asks, up until half of the kingdom, what can I do for you? And she says, let's have another dinner. And in between those two moments, Haman then tries to do these crazy things to try to eliminate Mordecai, but then Mordecai would end up being honored, being pranced around on a horse, and with Haman's, you have to read these chapters. But then, in the end, we see that Haman's plan would be revealed before the king. The king gets angry. He hangs Haman on the very gallows that Haman himself constructed. What a twist. What a twist. But all this because Esther went out on faith. Because and it's kind of something what I've shared before. We have this favor before the king. What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? Here's my point. Our faith in Jesus, today, our faith in Jesus grants us favor before the Father. When was the last time you prayed audaciously big? Right? In an impossible scenario where you have all these crazy blockages, but you know the right thing to do is this, and it's an impossible situation, and I'm going to pray that God grants me this crazy. I mean, some of us may look at it like a missions opportunity, and we're saying to ourselves, no, I can't go because I don't have the vacation time, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, and I have all these different reasons I can't go, but I know that the Lord is calling me to go, and so I'm just going to pray. Have you ever done that? The next mission trip is Brazil. I want to challenge you, Esther. Or that Esther. But think about it. What is that impossible scenario in your life where you're like, I know I gotta do this, but there's this blockage that comes in my way. What do I gotta do? I just gotta pray. And I just got to pray, and if I perish, I perish. If it doesn't go my way, it doesn't go my way. But I'm going to go all out. And I'm going to say, this is the right thing to do. I'm going to do it. We've all had those scenarios where our heart has sank, right? Our heart has sank, and then we just like, I'm just going to share a really quick story. No names. But there was this moment where some of these friends of mine they called me up, and they're telling me we borrowed this really tall van, and we drove it into an underground parking structure, and we can't get it out. And I'm like, what? And I'm picturing in my mind, this is crazy. How you get a van underneath and you can't get it back out? I think it's going to be like we just take the engine out and we're going to turn it into a children's display and we'll just leave it there. That's my first thought. But I'm thinking, no, there is a way. There's got to be a way. And as I'm talking to these friends, I'm realizing they have that moment where their heart just sank. Right? Can you imagine being the driver of that van and you realize, oh my gosh, I cannot get this van out. I am in so much trouble. And your heart sinks to the ground and you're having a hard time just kind of picking it up. And you're like, I don't know what to do. We've had those moments, right? We've had those moments. And you come into those impossible moments and you realize, man, only God can make a way to allow things to move forward again, right? Long story short, we were able to get the van out from underneath this parking structure. You've probably heard about deflating the tires, lowering the vehicle down, and then weighing it down, trying to get as many people inside and whatnot. But we were able to just get like literally, I kid you not, it's probably like an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch of clearance, and it just made it out. Praise the Lord. Suddenly the hearts just kind of came back and there's a rejoicing. And I can only imagine that's what Esther and Mordecai and all the Jews must have experienced. Like, they experienced deliverance. And they were here, they were thinking like, man, this is an impossible scenario. We're doomed. People of this nation are calling to destroy us. And the king's edict cannot be undone. And this is an impossible scenario. And then to turn around and to receive this edict from the king saying, the people, these Jewish people can defend themselves and defend themselves to such a degree they can destroy their enemies. What a celebration that must have gone through the entire kingdom of all these Jews. All because this one girl who would become queen came to this realization that I was made for a moment such as this. I was made for a moment such as this. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. I really encourage, I tell all my leaders to memorize this verse. I want to challenge all of you to memorize this verse. Ephesians 2:10. For if we are his workmanship, us being his creation, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. We have been made for a moment such as this. Right? We have been made for a moment such as this. You look at the times that we live in. The fact that we're alive and breathing right here, right now, we have been made for a moment such as this. The places where you're at, the schools that you're going back to, the companies that you work at, even the coffee shops that you enter into, you come into those moments. You were made for that moment. You were made for that moment to deliver somebody, to give them hope, to give them this good news. You were made for that moment. Here's my challenge to all of you. This week, I want you, this is kind of a carryover from me to you. Intercede boldly for the faith community this week. Let's boldly pray for one another here. Here's the thing. I want you to turn to the person to the left and to the right of you and say, I am going to pray for you this week. Do it right now. To the person to the left and to the right of you. If you don't know their name, find out their name, okay? Because we don't want that prayer to be like just sent to the other person on the other side of you, right? There may be multiple Matthews here. Not everybody's a Matthew, all right? Although Matthew would love to be prayed for by everybody. But this week, I challenge each and every one of you. I want you to just intercede for that person. Pray for them, right? There's an impossible scenario in their lives. I have to believe they need prayer. Let's pray for one another. Pray boldly. Pray audaciously big. Lord, I pray that you take all of these things in their lives and remove it. I pray in the name of Jesus, whose name carries authority and power, that they will rise above these circumstances. Pray audaciously big this week for that person next to you, for the people around you. Let's come before the Lord in prayer. Let's bow your heads right now and let's just for this moment, in a sense, pray like Esther did. Esther called for the people to fast and pray for what she is about to do. Let's do the same thing for ourselves right now. Lord, I'm about to go into this week and I'm about to pray audaciously big for this person, for my neighbor. And if I perish, I perish. If something happens to me, so be it. But I am going to intercede. I'm going to step up. And this is not about me. Lord, this is huge. And I need everything from you to be able to do this, to pray big. Can you do that? Just take a moment to just pray for yourself right now. Lord, I'm about to do something crazy. I'm about to pray on a scale unlike any other time in my life. I'm going to intercede on behalf of this person to the left and to the right of me. I'm going to pray because you are God. You are almighty. And because of my faith in you, you will hear these prayers and you are going to do the impossible. You're going to open a way. You're going to make the necessary things fall into place. Father God, Lord, I lift up to you my brothers and sisters that are gathered around here. I pray that you give us such faith that it really goes beyond what we can ever imagine us doing right here, right now. Father, each and every one of us, both in person and online, are going to pray audaciously big. We're going to pray in ways that truly go beyond the understanding. But that's because we pray to a God who makes all things possible, and whose name carries such great authority. As the psalmist would say, all of creation trembles and shakes at the presence of you, Lord. But you are on our side. We have you to lean on. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, this time. We love you, and we pray in Jesus' name.